Bill, you know, one of the things we've been speaking with Mary Ellen about, who works in this space, what are you learning when you've seen the images that you've seen on your screen of him being led away by the arms, by officers in uniform, that he's able to stand and walk on his own? What does that tell you about possibly his condition or what may have led to his capture?
Well, certainly, you know, it seems as though he spent some time in the woods, both by his dress. He seems to be kind of with the shirt that he has on at time of capture seems to be, you know, very maybe wet from the rain or being out in the environs. All the things you would expect someone like this. He wasn't, you know, certainly holed up in some, you know, some dry location or what have you. He was living outside. There's also, you know, interesting a couple of things that I noticed. One is that it appears that one of the responding special operators from, not to show it, from the state police, appears to be holding the rifle that he may have taken from that home, because that rifle was a long gun, 22 caliber with a flashlight on it, and appears to be held by one of the officers who's adjacent to him. The other thing too, I noticed as they were putting him into the Bearcat, the armored vehicle, is that they cut off his shirt to reveal various tattoos, I guess, for further identification and confirmation that they do actually have the man they've been searching for.
Bill, I have to ask you, I'm glad you mentioned that, because we saw that also. Is that also a signal to media to say, hey, guys, we got the right guy. We want you to know this guy is not hurt, that we were successful in this? How much is this also is for them to, you know, reaffirm to the public that we know what we're doing? We told you we would handle this, and we've handled it.
Well, certainly all along here, as much as, you know, he's been evading the authorities and the police and various levels. Again, I think it goes it's kind of more of a testament to his survival skills as opposed to in the absence of skills by the police. I think in this case, you're seeing that we're very, very fortunate to have very, you know, skilled and properly trained law enforcement officers in various parts of this country. And this goes to show you that they, you know, in this country, even if you are a convicted murderer, as he is that they're treating him as best as you could expect, given the circumstances, you know, humanely, and also, but at the same time, acting professionally to make sure that they have the right person, that no one else is put in danger, and he's taken into custody safely. In fact, he was even at one point, I thought I saw in the back of the Bearcat, they may have actually had appears to be kind of one of those space blankets, ones that people use after races, to perhaps given him because he no longer has a shirt on, to give him some comfort there. So I think all in all, you're seeing, you know, both the strength as well as kind of the kind of human compassion, if you will, if there is any, for someone like this. You know, by the police officers involved.
Yeah. Bill Daley, former FBI investigator, please stand by. We're going to now pivot to our next guest, Jennifer Koffendorfer. Jennifer, and just to remind people, when Bill says convicted murder, this is a guy who was convicted for killing his ex-girlfriend, stabbing her nearly 40 times in front of her own children. He's wanted for a separate slaying in his native Brazil. That's the kind of violent character we're talking about here. Jennifer, I know you're up to speed on the news. The fact that nobody else was hurt along the way in the last 14 days, talk about how miraculous and probably rare that is.
It really is rare, especially when he went in and stole that 22 caliber rifle. There was shots fired, as we know, and thankfully he didn't return that fire, and nobody was hurt in that situation. You know, Markie, these law enforcement officers, it's really hard to express what they go through. They are tired. They are working endless hours. This terrain, literally, you walk and you don't know if you're going to step into a snake. You've got poison sycamore, you know, poison ivy. You're looking through this brush. They did and worked in such difficult conditions, and my hats just really go off to them for their tenacity and for not allowing anyone else to be hurt.
And Jennifer, I'm glad you said that, because I had spoken with Mary Ellen earlier, and I said, Mary Ellen, how do they hold back and not get frustrated in this situation? And she was very clear, Nick, they train for the frustrating moments.
That's absolutely true. I mean, the training that goes into, especially BORTAC and these special SWAT units, having been on SWAT for 15 years, we train and train and train in these types of conditions because we know we're going to face them in the real life. And you know, it's a roller coaster. It's an emotional roller coaster. One moment you think you see them, you're on the trail, and then the next moment you're sitting for hours waiting for news. I also want to take a huge hats off to the aviation units. These guys were circling for hours and hours and hours with their spotters looking through their infrared FLIR equipment. This was so painstaking, and it's mind-numbing, really, to do it and to look. And so my hat's off for them, all this aviation support.
Jennifer, you know, one last quick question for you, because, you know, this continues to be a developing story. Jennifer, I know you've seen some of the videos. One of the things Bill Daley mentioned is how he even thought that he saw like one of those blankets in the back that you use after a run. Why is it important that this person, who is a convicted murderer, still be treated with their respect or decency, even as he's taken into custody?
And I'm so glad he brought that up. I tell you, I spent more money on Cokes and Happy Meals and burgers for convicted murderers and things of that nature, because you cannot lower yourself to their level. They need, he was probably freezing, shivering. They don't want him to die on their watch. There just is always a humanness that all law enforcement have, no matter what the circumstances. And I'm so glad he brought that up, and that your viewers can see that this is the reality.
Yeah. And Jennifer, I did have just another question for you. We talked to Mary Ellen O'Toole, a former FBI profiler just a little bit ago. She said, you know, men like this, convicts like this, operate under stress differently than you or I do. How long could he have gone on? Again, you know, we laid out what he's been convicted for, what he's wanted for in Brazil. He works under a different code of ethics and conduct than the rest of us do. Could he have just kept on going and going and going until law enforcement eventually caught up with him?
Absolutely. I agree with Mary. He's been in difficult situations his whole life. He's been running from the law. He operates differently in terms of his ability to really adapt and overcome, and to, I call it, be uncomfortable, you know, to be cold, to be in thistles, to deal with animals. All of that he was willing to do to save his freedom. And but for really technology and the tenaciousness of law enforcement and the help from the community, this wouldn't have happened in this way it did. I've got my victory red on today because I'm just so grateful he was finally captured, and this community can breathe a little easier.
Yeah, we were all ready to see this day.
Absolutely.
And this moment. Jennifer, thanks so much. Would you please stand by? We now have Stuart Kaplan joining us. He's a former FBI special agent himself. He's on Zoom as well. Stuart, good morning to you. Your thoughts on this latest development?
Good morning. Not surprised. If you recall, you go back to the tape back on Monday when I appeared on your network, I think just around 1 o'clock, I told Kelly back then that I was aware that additional assets were being brought in. And I said that within 24 to 48 hours, this individual would be apprehended or neutralized. And I just applaud the efforts of law enforcement. And it goes to show you that really no one is outside the reach of the efforts of the United States, global efforts to apprehend such a dangerous individual such as this one. And so I applaud the men and women who literally worked around the clock to, you know, bring this to a conclusion.
Stuart, we're about 30 minutes away from what will be a press conference where they will talk about all the events that led to Cavalcante's capture. What are some of the things that you are looking to hear at that press conference, or that you would have shared were you working on a case similar to this one, as you have throughout your career?
Well, part of what may have stalled, and again, I don't want to play Monday morning quarterback, but again, the Pennsylvania State Police with their local partners obviously wanted to try to apprehend and neutralize this threat as soon as possible. I think there was some embarrassment with respect to the locals, with respect to just the fact that this was the second time an individual in such a short period of time had escaped from this same facility. When I became aware that the United States Marshal Service Fugitive Apprehension Task Force was being implemented and some of the assets on the federal level were now being brought in, I knew then that it was going to be a very short period of time until such time as they were going to bring this to a conclusion. Those assets that are available on the federal level are very hyper-technical, and fortunately, we're able to implement those assets when they are requested, and you see how quickly now this ultimately came to a conclusion.
Yeah. And we have seen, just the bird's eye view from the chopper of law enforcement agents bringing him into custody, into that tactical unit. He does seem to be not injured. I mean, he is at least walking. He's upright. What does that tell you, and what does that indicate about how they eventually brought him into custody and the moments that played out there at the very end?
Well, once we became aware that he had broken into a house and now was in possession of a firearm, the urgency obviously was escalated, because now the threat of potentially being a target from a distance, meaning either the general public or a law enforcement officer engaging this individual, the distance between yourself and that bad guy obviously becomes a situation that you have to consider, meaning without a weapon, obviously it's more likely a close contact may escalate in some danger to the law enforcement or to the general public. But once he became in possession of a firearm, that escalated the urgency. And thankfully, because I knew on Monday that those additional assets had been called up and were now being implemented, I knew that certainly within 24 to 48 hours, this individual was going to be apprehended. He clearly was on the run. Obviously, he was able to shelter at some point because of the elements, because of the weather. I will also applaud, your station, other media outlets, social media. I think in this day and age, without the general public's assistance, it does complicate and make it more difficult for law enforcement. But with all eyes on deck and all hands on deck, this is why we're able to do the great work that the men and women of law enforcement, this is a perfect example of why we should stand up and salute them and applaud them and be thankful that there are people that are willing to put their lives, literally their lives on the line to keep us all safe in a situation such as this one.
Yeah, Jennifer Coffindaffer, right before you talked about how this is definitely a victory. She's wearing her victory red because no law enforcement officers were hurt, and neither was the suspect. She talked about how important that was, that part of the training goes into making sure that everyone walks away at the end of the day safely, but at the end of the day that the community is also safe, and they were able to do this. We had a timeline up here at NewsNation on the series of events on how he escaped, Stuart, on August 31st, and on September 1st he was spotted and in part of the township outside the prison, and then on the 5th he was spotted on cameras in Longwood Gardens. Then on September 10th, spotted on a camera in Phoenixville, and he had changed his appearance at this time. So it seems as though by the time that we actually heard from Pennsylvania State Police, it was clear that the Lieutenant Captain, was frustrated that reporters were asking questions that, hey, why didn't you guys do more? How did he escape the first perimeter? And Stuart, if I'm understanding you correctly, that these are things that will be looked into, how he was able to move to these points, and all of this will be part of the investigation.
Yeah, I mean, look, the frankness coming from my perspective is that it is very difficult for local and state law enforcement. They just don't have the technical assets. For example, most homeowners, or there are a lot of homeowners that have Ring doorbell cameras that capture movement and capture the recordings. The problem with those video recordings, they are very helpful and very relevant, but if you don't have the technical assistance or the assets in place to quickly go through those recordings and somehow be able to leapfrog, it becomes, a times painstaking individual task. On the federal level, there are technical assets that kind of, with artificial intelligence, again, I don't want to give too much information out, but let me just say this. This is a perfect example of where we have evolved and where we are in the advancement of technology to put all of the relevant capturing of video surveillance, audio surveillance, physical surveillance together to really come up and zero in on someone. And that's why, again, I said I knew within a very short period of time this individual was going to be neutralized.
Stuart, thank you so much for saying. I'm glad you said that, because you said something I think is very important for people at home to recognize, that just because there may have been ring door camera video, that still has to be analyzed. Investigators need to look at that. And Stuart is making it clear that if we don't have the resources for that, because guess what? All our guys are out there on the perimeter looking for this guy. Nick, we don't have time to go through all this video that you think you may have of this guy. So all of this is another part of the resources.
Stuart Kaplan, if you would just stand by, sir, we appreciate it. We're going to head to another guest just for a moment. And just a reminder for anybody just now tuning in, we have live team coverage here after 14 days of this massive manhunt. Danilo Cavalcante has been captured somewhere in the Pennsylvania area. We're working on location right now from our crews on the ground. Let's head out to Art Roderick right now, a former U.S. Marshal. Art, can you hear us?
Yeah, I've got you loud and clear.
Okay, loud and clear. Thank you so much for your time. Walk us through what is happening now. You know, we have seen the bird's eye view from the chopper. He's in law enforcement custody. What's it like behind the scenes with him right now? Has questioning already begun, or is it a silent ride to wherever he's headed next?
No, they'll question him, and hopefully he'll be forthcoming. I think what's unusual, highly unusual about this case is he never really left the area. He stayed primarily in that area, and we've seen him 14 or 15 times on camera. So it's going to be interesting to see what he says about how he was able to get out of these perimeters that have been set up, 3 or 4 different perimeters. You know, these guys get lucky. It's been a couple weeks, not extremely long period of time. I mean, we've had others that have been out for months and years. But this particular individual, with the amount of people that were brought in over the weekend and earlier this week for relief, but also added bodies on the ground, really came to the point where this guy doesn't seem to want to leave the area, and he's looking for people to help him. And luckily, none of those people actually were able to assist him in any real manner to get him out of that area. So when you see him 14, 15 times on camera over the past couple of weeks, it's just really a matter of time before his luck runs out or law enforcement gets a lucky break. And that's more than likely what occurred here. We had enough teams on the ground, different SWAT teams with the Pennsylvania State Police. You had Marshall Special Operations Group, BORTAC from the Border Patrol. You know, I'm sure probably FBI, HRT might have had some assets there also. So you had all the right teams in place and the right gear there. It was just going to be a matter of pinpointing him finally and then tightening that perimeter to make sure he was inside of it.
All right. Thank you so much. Art, if you would also stand by, we got to head back out to our correspondent on the ground, Evan Lambert. Evan, it's been a few minutes since we've last chatted with you. Any new updates there on the ground or from your sources?
Yeah, nothing quite yet as far as details of how they got him or where. That's what we're waiting on. But I did want to share one thing, really just some observations from looking at some chopper video that I've seen. It's frustrating because we don't have that for you yet. We're working on getting some of those aerial pictures, but I've been watching it and just noting some things. So it looks like he was captured in an Eagles hoodie, which is interesting. And it may have been one. It's unclear if he stole that or if the police put that on him. He had last been reported to be shirtless, but in some of the video that I've been looking at, he was wearing an Eagles hoodie, and I've seen pictures of law enforcement surrounding him, kind of like taking pictures, the tactical teams that were involved, it looks like, in his capture. Sure, they are just over the moon to have finally captured this guy. And we saw some of that, too, as they were loading him into a black tactical vehicle. We did shoot some video, and we're hoping to turn that around shortly as well, of that tactical vehicle and the motorcade going right by us. We started to hear and see some of the media helicopter activity, and it started to get closer to us. So my photographer here was like, hey, I think they're going to come right by us. We looked down the road, and that's exactly what we saw. And it's pretty good video. You see that whole motorcade just driving right by it. We showed it live, obviously, but we'll turn that around. And so, you know, he was definitely inside that black tactical vehicle. I've seen some other shots where he was loaded inside to that vehicle, and it's unclear right now. We're trying to find out where he's going. We do know that it likely will not be the Chester County Prison, but it's possible that they drop him somewhere else to do a debrief and an interview before going to a state penitentiary. But that is his ultimate destination, as has been explained to us by Pennsylvania State Police in the last few days. They're going to just bypass the Chester County Prison. We know about the issues with that. It allowed him to escape to begin with. And the county does say that they have made some changes. And I should just be a little bit more specific about that. We did just a moment ago get a statement from the Chester County commissioners, and they really were just thanking all the law enforcement for their cooperation. And they called this a nightmare that is now over, just kind of scanning it. But one key passage that I thought was interesting was that they referenced the Chester County Prison specifically, saying Chester County prison officials have made some immediate changes to bolster security in the prison. They've brought in security contractors to make permanent changes to the exercise yards. So that's a key phrase, because we know that is where Cavalcante crab walked out of, got out of kind of the view of the main area there in the prison yards, and was able to crab walk up those walls and get onto the roof through razor wire that had been increased since May, when another inmate, Igor Bolt, escaped using that same route. He was captured in just minutes, but this time, obviously, Cavalcante on the run for 14 days. He's now in custody, and you're looking at that video I can see of the motorcade rolling by us. It's that black tactical vehicle. I don't know where we started it, but you should start to see it at some point. Black tactical vehicle, that's the one that Cavalcante was inside. Again, picked up, we believe, wearing an Eagles jersey, or that was either given to him by the people that picked him up, the law enforcement officers, the tactical teams that got him. They ripped it off or cut it off as he was loaded into the tactical vehicle and have sent him on his way. And also just something to note, as they were going by, I was kind of waving at the law enforcement. Many of them had their windows down. Smiles, cheers. I mean, these men and women are proud of their efforts, and they've faced some very tough questions. And we've been asking those questions. And it wasn't to, call them out for any wrongdoing necessarily, but they were the obvious questions. How could they have not gotten this guy? And I think they've handled those pretty well. They said, look, this is what we have been doing. We're throwing all the resources as we can. Basically, he is resourceful and he is small, and these areas are vast and they're challenging. But, all that work has paid off this morning.
Okay. Evan, thank you so much for all of that information. And yeah, to your point of the jersey, it would either have to have been given to him or stolen during his time on the run. That's not what he was seen wearing when he was crab crawling out of the facility. Jennifer Coffendorfer, let's bring you back in. What's happening now behind the scenes? I just asked Art this question. What's going through law enforcement's mind right now? Not only the relief, but, okay, this isn't over. What are the next steps in questioning him and moving him to a safer, more secure facility from here?
Well, they're going to take him to an interview room, and they want to be able to Mirandize him and ask him about the details of everything he did during his escape. And so hopefully he'll be cooperative. Remember, there could be some language barriers. He would be a Portuguese native speaker. So it's best to always acquire a Portuguese speaker to conduct that interview. And they'll be looking at all the details of exactly what he did while he was gone, if he did have any help, and the movements he made.
Jennifer, you talked about earlier why it's important to show compassion in a situation like this. And it's something that I heard echoed with Robin. I heard it echoed with Art. Everyone who has spoken with us, Stuart, even talked about how that's necessary and important. Jennifer, but I think that people at home may be asking themselves, why would you worry about that when we heard law enforcement elevate this risk factor and talk about the danger that he was? Do you mind explaining that once again on why it is that we saw him being walked into the back of that Bearcat and why there may have been like a blanket inside waiting for him and not maybe roughed up in some way or some form?
Well, it's really twofold, right? There is a human part of it, but also the more comfortable you make him, the more you show some compassion to him, the more likely he's going to be able to want to cooperate with you. So certainly those agents and officers who are going to be responsible for the interview, they want to establish rapport. That is the number one thing they need to establish if they want him to cooperate. So it's twofold, really. Also, you don't want to have some sort of medical emergency happen, you know, him to go into if he was very cold, some sort of emergency due to, you know, being excessively cold. So it's twofold, really.
It's funny that Jennifer, in her experience and what all law enforcement is telling us, is that they're still concerned about hypothermia for someone who's been on the run for 14 days.
Absolutely. Jennifer, thank you. Robin Dreek, let's bring you back in. Take us into the mind of Cavalcante right now, if you could. Is there some sense of even relief on his part that this has come to an end and he's not on the run for any longer? What do you usually find with convicts like this who have escaped?
I don't think he's got a sense of relief. I think he's back into a sense of dread because his best laid plans have been thwarted. And law enforcement did a great job. What'll be really interesting now, and Jennifer just talked about it, is the amount of trust and rapport they're able to build with him, because you have multiple layers now. We need to learn from him so this won't happen again. And in order to do that, you have to inspire him to want to share the information. Also, I'd be really interested to see who he targeted, why he targeted them, you know, these homes, if his sister did provide any assistance, what his mother's role was, you know, did he have any kind of assistance? Because we also have to flush that out as well. So there's going to be a lot of action going on.
We heard Evan talk about how Chester County Prison officials talk about some of the immediate changes that they've made to bolster security at the facility, and that they're changing procedures for both security measures and communication to residents around the community, because I have to believe, even in this situation, that they are thinking to themselves, will this happen again? And how do we avoid this situation from happening again? So, Robin, what happens now when they actually speak to the community? Because I have to believe that there will be community members who will have questions.
Yeah, well, they're going to be addressing all the safety concerns. They're going to do all they can to make them feel safe in their environment. And they're also going to highlight that no one was injured as a result of him escaping. Thank goodness they did a good job on that one. But we can always get better at everything we do. And so I think if they do a good due diligence, if they put great leadership at the top as they trickle on down and do the after action reports, especially at this prison, because this is where the single point of failure happened, you know, it'll all hopefully be sorted out from there. Hopefully the new warden that comes in will be able to do just that.
Fantastic. You know, we've been doing team coverage this morning, Robin, so we want to keep circling around to the rest of our guests who are on the panel this morning, just to kind of help bring this home for viewers and those who are watching this, because we're watching that Bearcat vehicle right now on the screen. We have a live picture there in Chester County. It's one of those situations where we know the law enforcement were very clear in what they wanted to do when they took Cavalcante into custody. We watched them lead him into the back of their Bearcat. We watched them cut off the back of his shirt. And Markie, we were even learning that this may have been to clearly identify that they had the right person because of the tattoo.
Yeah, and we've been talking with experts for the past 2 weeks about how his desperation is just ratcheting up day by day, changing his appearance, breaking into the home, stealing the .22 rifle, reaching out even to past acquaintances that he hadn't worked with or talked to in years. So it really spoke to us that he didn't have a close-knit group of people or an accomplice really helping him. We want to bring in Danny Colson now. Danny, do you have us?
Yes,
oh,
you
there
do.
you
I
are.
do.
See you, sir. We haven't spoken to you yet, and just gotten your thoughts on this update.
Well, first of all, you have to understand these are very hard missions for law enforcement. If you remember, we looked for Eric Rudolph for 5 years and never caught him until he went to a dumpster and a lone patrol officer actually arrested him. So law enforcement did a great job here. These things are very dangerous. My concern the whole time was he'd break into somebody's house and hold them hostage. or use them to facilitate a getaway. So they're dangerous situations, and I think that the state police there did a great job keeping everybody apprised. And it's my kudos go to him.
Yeah. How surprised are you that nobody was hurt along the way in the last 14 days? That they caught him, law enforcement, no local was shot or injured in all of this time on the run?
They generally go down like that. Again, my big concern was the welfare of the community, because these guys are desperate. And people have to be taught and informed by the local police or the FBI or somebody what to do and what not to do. Like simple things like keep your door locked. When you go get gasoline, be careful at the gas station. If you're shopping, be careful, because most people that are accosted from a car. So these things are really important. They did a good job here. But the thing that catches these guys are local law enforcement, patrol officers, and the public. And the media, frankly. I kind of hate to give you guys that much credit, but you do help us a lot, because you get the word out who we're looking for and what they look like, and they give the warnings out. So it's kind of a team of effort. I think this one worked perfectly.
Danny, one of the things we couldn't help but notice, too, is how when we were speaking with Jennifer, when we spoke with Art, when we spoke with Stuart, everyone talked about how the agencies work in partnership. Everyone works together. Everyone wants this to be resolved in a way where minimal harm is done. But one of the questions we can't help but ask when we see a situation like this is, I think people at home, once again, were asking themselves, why did it take as long as it did? And in your experience, is this something that you will be looking for answers to also at this press conference in less than 30 minutes?
Well, I'm not surprised that it took a long time. Remember, I mentioned Eric Rudolph, 5 years. These things are hard. And if the guy is wily and smart and in good condition, that has something to do with it. It's going to take a long time. And you play for the breaks. You assess the situation, you set your perimeter, and then you play for a break. It's like football or basketball. Play for a break, and when the break occurs, you're there to take advantage of it. They did that. I think the media is a little bit overcritical of these situations. These are hard. Remember, the media's never had a catch a future.
Danny,
totally agree.
I'm glad you said that, because I wanted to make it very clear. I've never worked in that space, and I think it's easy for us to stand back and ask these questions, and sometimes in an overly aggressive way, second-guessing things that are being done on the ground when none of us have walked in those shoes. Danny, I want you to stand by for us, because we're going to continue with our team coverage here.
Yeah, let's go to Stuart. If we could bring you back in, former FBI Special Agent Stuart Kaplan, to his point about the media, the coverage, but also the law enforcement aspect of this. I think about other escapes that we have followed before that haven't gotten near this much law enforcement coverage or media coverage. I think about Samuel Hartman, who escaped out of Alabama last year using jet skis. His mom was an accomplice. We followed that for a few days, and then he was just captured a year later, last week. What different elements did this case have that made law enforcement pounce by the droves that others don't?
Well, I mean, certainly keeping it on the front page. I think historically law enforcement has been resistant to include media in their efforts to assist them in the apprehension, such as in this type of case. But I think over the years, and certainly with the advancement of social media, the fact that we are all on our smartphones, that we use, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, whatever social media platform, the fact now that it is almost impossible not to see or read something in connection with this ongoing case in the last 2 weeks would have been impossible, other than if you didn't own a TV or didn't read a newspaper or watch television. And I think it goes to show that law enforcement, in partnership with the general public, and having the general public be the eyes and ears to assist law enforcement, goes to show you how effective our efforts can be in bringing a situation like this to a safe conclusion. And just by way of example, if homeowners have Ring doorbells and you're on maybe the cusp or the perimeter of something that may have happened during a period of time that, you just an afterthought, you just never know. And with the advancement of technology, that is where we can find the needle in the haystack, with the general public coming forward and providing these type of assistance to break a case open like this. And that's where I say congratulations, not only to law enforcement, not only to the media, but also to the general public. It could not have been done without the uniformed, united front of all fronts coming together and working in partnership. A great job, a great resolution. No one was hurt. Keep in mind, there's going to be a process after today. This individual, probably more likely than not, will be charged with the breaking and entering into that homeowner's house in possession of a firearm. And so you have to, deal with those type of things and what the exchange will be from the local authorities with respect to how those cases play out.
Stuart, I'm going to ask you to hold on for us once again because we want to bring back in Jennifer Coffindaffer. Jennifer, we just heard Stuart talk about the importance of that technology and how technology is used by the law enforcement agencies to help track down. But Stuart also mentioned something earlier, Jennifer, that I thought was important also, that, hey, it also takes resources to be able to use this information. And guess what? Some of these agencies don't have all that manpower to actually go through and sift through video and things like that. But Jennifer, this is still important for community members to be alert and be on these different systems and offer that information if they have it. If they have a doorbell camera and it's maybe in the area and I don't know if I have something or not, you still want people to come forward with this information.
Absolutely. Again, I liked how he termed it, that they are the eyes and ears. And I would actually like to answer the question that you previously posed. I think the Gonzalo Lopez case that really mirrored this in a lot of ways in terms of the type of subject that got loose in Texas, that was loose for 3 weeks, that ended up massacring a family of 5. That was not covered near as well as this, and certainly the response was nowhere near this. And I really believe law enforcement learned a lot from that situation and was not going to see that happen again in Pennsylvania.
Jennifer, it's not only lessons for law enforcement. I'm going to ask you to turn it back on us, because one of the things that, honestly, that Danny Colson said that kind of hit me there. He said, sometimes you all in the media, you don't do the best job in being respectful to what we're doing. Our job is really to press and ask for these questions, but is there a way that we can approach this that can develop a better partnership with law enforcement and still be respectful to the job that we have to do and reflect the needs of the public?
Right. Well, I certainly think that when he breached that original perimeter, there needed to be questions asked. How? And I think truly, unless your boots on the ground and really realize you can't hold hands in a circle to keep somebody inside, it is just so difficult in the terrain conditions they had and with those drainage areas and tunnels. So they were right questions, but the bad thing is sometimes it can turn from really trying to just try to explain a situation as to trying to point fingers and saying something was wrong. Look, no investigation, no search is perfect, but they did an excellent job. And I give them an A+ because no one was hurt. They got him in custody without incident, as we say, and the community is safe.
Yeah, I can't imagine just the monumental undertaking that this was for law enforcement. Robin, let's bring you back in. You know what keeps crossing my mind is that movie Catch Me If You Can, which the title, the name is fitting for today, where Leonardo DiCaprio, plays Frank Abagnale Jr. He gets caught, but eventually is used to help law enforcement with the same types of offenses that he made. Could we see that happen here, where down the road Danilo Cavalcante is used to help with, kind of escapee mindsets? Or are those kind of roles saved for people who are not violent offenders?
Markie, it's funny you mentioned that. That is exactly what entered my mind as well. As soon as he was arrested, it's like, we need to learn from this individual because he has reps in evading law enforcement. And I think if they treat him, as it's been mentioned, professionally, and they don't shame him in any way when they put him back into the system, because he needs to be in the system a long time. He's obviously convicted for the rest of his life, but we can learn a lot from him. And I think it's important to do so, because as we're doing our after actions and we get better, one, keeping them in so they don't escape to begin with. But if in the unlikely event it happens again, we need to be able to bring the best resources to bear, and education is what does it. And I want to really emphasize one more thing that they talked about earlier on, all the guests are, it's relationships. Relationships with our technology and relationships with each other is what makes these things happen. Law enforcement had relationships with the community, each other, and technology, and he had none. And that's what ultimately happened.
Oh, wow. You know, again, Robin, we can just talk about this all day, because I think there's just so much that people at home want to learn. Robin, one of the things that Jennifer also talked about is how, Nick, you mentioned the relationship building. She talked about the relationship building, and she says, you have no idea how much money I've spent on Cokes and Big Macs and things like that to make sure that the person that we've taken in is comfortable, and that they understand that now that that process of you being on the run is over, there's another layer to this, Nick, that we have to take care of, which is learning information. So you've talked about that. You hinted on that with the next steps. What happens now that he's in custody, and what can we expect to learn from this press conference, and what can we expect investigators to learn from him?
Well, at the press conference, I think you're going to see vindication for any law enforcement that might have felt slighted or shamed that they didn't get him faster because of the pressure that was on them. They're going to illustrate how the community is safe, has been safe, and the things they did there. But what's going on behind the scenes, like you said right now, is you're going to get individuals engaging with him that are masters of creating trust and rapport, so you can elicit the information that you need to never let this happen again. This is a fantastic learning moment on all levels, and thankfully it didn't come from being at the consequences of anyone's safety, you know, in the long run, obviously, and harm to others, because this is a great learning moment for law enforcement.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Art Roderick, let's bring you back in, former U.S. Marshal. We now know he's probably currently being questioned now. He's being taken to further questioning, no doubt about it. If you were sitting across from him in that interrogation room, what are the top things you would hope to learn from him, glean from him? What does he need to answer, not only for law enforcement, but for the public as well?
There's a couple things. I mean, you've shown the video of him crab walking up the wall, but when you expand the aperture on that camera and get a broader view, you see somebody watching that's a lookout for him at the jail. So this is really going to be the key part. Who helped him out? Who knew that this was going to be going on? And then obviously take that to the next step, where you start charging people with aiding and abetting and assisting. And that's going to be the key part here, who helped them out. But you also have to realize there's anywhere from 2,000 to 2,300 escapes every year from state, local, federal, county facilities in the United States. Of those 2,000 to 2,300, 90% of them are from minimum security facilities. So you have to prioritize all these escape cases that occur in the U.S. So really what you're looking for is individuals escaping from maximum security type facilities that are violent criminals. And that's how we prioritize these different escape cases that occur around the U.S. So really, it comes down to that. Who's the worst of the worst? Let's target them and go after them before they hurt individuals. We also know this individual knows how to survive on the fringe of society. He did it in Brazil. He was doing it here. He's very street smart. He's not like a survivalist like we think of Bear Grylls, but he does know how to survive on the street, and that's what he used to his benefit. And it was really just a matter of time as we kept setting up these perimeters where we were going to get lucky and he was going to get unlucky, and I'm sure we're going to hear about that at the press conference.
And Art, you know, I don't want to sound cavalier about this, but I was genuinely impressed with how quickly he was able to change his look. From one look that I think that everyone had been looking for, the curly hair, the mustache, the next thing we see is this clean-shaven guy, not nicked up and, you know, a scruff. It looked like a nice, clean shave, so he did not look like the same person. And part of those are the tactics you're talking about that those who are on the run will use to evade capture.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing you got to realize too is that when these inmates they have control over sort of the two phases of the escape, the planning and the execution. Really, the part that they have to get down that is very difficult for them to get down is what happens once I get out. And if they don't have any immediate assistance on the outside, it's going to be very difficult for them to survive in the area around the prison because of the heat and the amount of law enforcement that comes on them immediately after the escape. And that's exactly what you had here. He never had a really good plan to get out of the area. So he stayed in the area there and contacted people that he knew or had a past association with to get some assistance. And luckily, hopefully, we'll find out that there really wasn't a lot of help here. We do know that there were some family members that helped out, but it sounds like the public, the rest of the associates that he contacted went ahead and called law enforcement and let him know he was in the area.
Yeah, and Art, right to your right on the screen, we keep playing this this video of the motorcade, taking Danilo Cavalcante to what NewsNation has now confirmed is the Avondale State Police Barrack in Avondale, Pennsylvania. I'll pose this question to you or any of our other, panel of guests that we have live. Are you familiar, or is anybody here familiar with Avondale State Police Barrack in Avondale, Pennsylvania, and what that facility looks like compared to the one that he just crab crawled out of?
Well, if it's a standard state police barrack type facility, then they will have holding cells there. So what they'll do is they'll take him there, they'll process him, fingerprint him, photograph him. They'll do some basic information exchange and fully book him, and then get ready for his appearance before the magistrate, which will probably happen sometime today, I would assume, if they're done doing the initial interviews that they're going to get done. So now he's in the judicial process part of it, and will be booked and then get ready for his initial appearance.
We literally are looking at live pictures right now where he just got out of the back of that Bearcat, and we saw him being walked inside in what looked like to be one of those blankets that both Jennifer and Stuart had talked about earlier that may have been in the back of that Bearcat to keep him warm and keep him warm from hypothermia. But even, Art, when we talk about him now going to this facility and being held and then being booked and being processed, you are saying that this is a very different type of facility than the one he clearly escaped from.
Well, I mean, it's a secure facility. They're not set up for long-term type of holding of prisoners. This is just what we call the holding area. So there's cells there, there's interview rooms, and they'll go ahead and take care of all that. They'll do a strip search, make sure he's got nothing hidden on him at all, and then finish the booking process. They'll hold him there, and then once he goes to the court, then they'll determine where he goes to be held, awaiting any further judicial action. So I think we had heard early on the district attorney talk about holding him more at a prison facility as opposed to a jail facility where you're awaiting adjudication.
Art, you talked about something else I just want to touch on. You talked about how those who are on the run only have prisoners only have two aspects of the situation that they control. The planning of the escape and then executing that escape. And then that's where they tend to struggle on the third portion, actually getting away. We do know now that at some point he was able to acquire a van. But unfortunately for him, that van ran out of gas. How important is it that was indeed the situation? Because is it possible that him having escaped that first perimeter and having had wheels, could that have taken him? And he changed his look on us, Art. And I told you that he didn't look like the same person to me. Is it possible that would have aided in his ability to stay on the lam a little bit longer?
Yeah, I thought that right off the bat. The minute I heard he got the van, I said, this guy is heading south and getting the heck out of the area. One of the key parts is, when they're interviewing him, why did he stay in the area? I mean, obviously the vehicle ran out of gas. And he did try to, I mean, we don't know how many other vehicles he tried to steal. So all this information is going to be very important coming together. Is what else did he try to do that he was not successful at while he was on the run? Obviously, we know he was successful in getting out of several of these perimeters, but that's all key information that we're going to learn once we sit down, and hopefully he's going to be cooperative with us.
Yeah. Danny, let's bring you back in. We also have a live shot right here, right next to Art. We're still waiting for that press conference to start any moment now. And once that happens, we'll, of course, take that live. But Danny, you know, we've also confirmed, or AP News, I should say, has confirmed that searchers use thermal imaging to direct police on the ground to find and arrest Cavalcante. For those of us who are not in law enforcement and we want to know what that looks like, what exactly does that look like to use thermal imaging to catch up to him and eventually capture him?
Oh my gosh, I have used it a lot. It's amazing. It's generally airborne, and it looks right down through the dark, through the fog, through the smoke, and oftentimes through the foliage. So he can't hide from that unless he has some special equipment, which he doesn't. But bottom line, it's one of the most valuable tools law enforcement has, and I used it many, many times. And it actually made me look good, and I wasn't all that good. So
I'm sure that's not true, Danny.
No, it's a great tool, and it's very expensive, and everybody should have it.
Danny, one of the things you said earlier, and I asked it to Jennifer, and I went back to Stuart with it because you said something about media and it hit me there because it really is one of the things where we try to walk the line of not only pressing for information and getting the information that the public needs, but also holding law enforcement accountable and asking tough questions. But we never mean to do that to be disrespectful. And when I suggested to you that, you know, hey, when we were pressing questions on why wasn't more done, admittedly, never having walked in those shoes before, and I understand how tough the job can be. Danny, what is the approach that you believe media should take in a situation like this when it's being pressed upon us on how important it is that this person be captured, but also making sure that we're asking the right questions of law enforcement?
Well, I think you have private conversations. All the conversations between law enforcement and media doesn't have to be at a press conference. You should have a good press officer, agent, marshal, deputy marshal, or FBI agent, or local policeman, and they should be having private conversations.
Danny, we're looking at pictures right now of Cavalcante. Can you tell us what you're seeing there, what you may be gleaning from that situation as you look at that?
Yeah, he looks totally different, doesn't he?
He does.
If I saw him on the street, I wouldn't recognize him. So he did a good job changing his appearance, and that's important to know.
And we're seeing multiple representatives from different agencies standing there behind the lectern. Yes. It looks as though they're preparing to begin that press conference in a short period of time. What can we expect to hear at this press conference, do you think?
I think they're going to be ecstatic. I think they're going to be very happy. This is like scoring a football touchdown. I was in the fugitive business, and I know I was very happy when he finally caught somebody. And they're going to be thanking the public. They're going to be thanking each other. I can almost do the press conference from here because I know how they work. But these guys have a lot to be proud of. And frankly, with all the media we see now, they defund the police and all that. Well, what if we defunded these policemen? That guy would be still out there. Yeah. So we need to think about how valuable they are and what a service they perform and the sacrifices that they make for you and me and my family and your family.
Danny Colson, I want you to stand by for us here because we're going to continue with this coverage, but we do want to bring in Jennifer Coffindaffer one more time. Jennifer, are you still there with us?
Yes.
Okay, Jennifer, let's talk about the last couple weeks for the people who live in the area. You know, they have been told to stay on high alert, lock your doors, lock your cars, school shut down because of this. However, evacuations were not ordered. Should that have been the case?
Well, I just tell you, it's difficult to receive those reverse 911 calls saying, listen, you need to stay in place, and this is an armed and dangerous felon. And, you know, it's very difficult for individuals. I'm sure some individuals, and actually I know some individuals did leave prior to when he was in that area. So certainly I don't think an evacuation should have been ordered, but they did right saying shelter in place. Let's close these schools. I also believe they really did have that perimeter that they felt with the heat-seeking fleers, that they had him at least contained.
We know that we're waiting for this press conference to start at any moment here. So, Jennifer, I'm going to ask you to hold on. I want to go back to Robin one more time. Robin, one of the things that we heard mentioned before was the idea of this reverse 911 call telling people to shelter in place. But I also remember at one of the press conferences them being clear about, hey, we know this is the Labor Day weekend. Some people may be out of town. If you come back home and you see things out of place, make sure you let us know, because a lot of people weren't tuned into what was happening in Chester County at the time with the escape. What are some of the takeaways that you think that they could possibly do better next time with alerting the community, or do you believe that the way things were handled in this situation is the best approach?
Yeah, the Labor Day weekend was the greatest challenge, I think, for this in protecting the community. And I think the learning point for individuals and households that we've said numerous times is don't be in a rush to not be present. Because when you're present and you're not multitasking, when you're leaving your home, when you're leaving wherever you are, and you can just take in your environment to baseline what normal looks like around you, it gives you the ability then when you return to then be present again. Don't multitask. Don't be on your phone when you're walking in, and just take in your environment to see if anything's looking different. I think that's a huge takeaway for society in general, especially as community as they're moving forward and what they want to learn from this. But that was a huge challenge, was the Labor Day weekend, without a doubt.
Robin, I know you see, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Do you think that we're about to get the whole story from law enforcement, at this press conference? Because oftentimes, press conference start, they'll talk for a few minutes, media starts asking questions. There's a lot that they can't comment on yet. Will that also be the case here, or will they be fully transparent as to the chain of events that led up to his capture and what happens next?
It's like you just said, it's going to be a lot more information than we've had before, but it's not going to be everything most likely, because it's going to be more investigations, as already indicated, is that who aided him on the inside? Did he get any aid on the outside? Who was involved? Who wasn't involved? Tools and techniques that we utilize, because you never want to let the bad guys know how good you are and what technology we have on our side as well. There'll be hints, there'll be innuendos about things we can and can't do, but they're not going to reveal everything. But they're going to make people feel safe, because this is exactly what transpired.
Robin, I don't want to shut you down, but it looks as though we may be getting ready to begin this press conference in Chester County, PA. The minute they actually, we are. Robin, we'll tune into this and we'll talk to you on the other side.
Report
Absolutely.
That thanks to the extraordinary work of law enforcement officials from here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,